1 month ago, I published a video titled "One of the Worst Takes on Godzilla Ever." The video was a response to another video by a channel called Doktor Skipper, who claimed that Godzilla doesn't work outside of Japan. His video was littered with misinformation. My response video received a ton of comments, and most of them were positive. However, I just couldn't help but notice a few comments talking about the toxicity of the Godzilla fandom. One user said, "For all the toxicity the G fanbase can have, I'm glad we can call out misinformation." While another user talked about how there's sort of these different factions of the Godzilla fanbase, with there being Toho and Monsterverse and the 1998 sort of fan bases, if that makes sense. With the Toho fanbase being somewhat elitist in comparison to the other ones. So this got me thinking, is the Godzilla fandom really that toxic? You see, I've always been a lurker of sorts when it comes to the Godzilla fanbase, and even the kaiju community in general. I've been a kaiju fan for as long as I can remember, maybe since I was like 3 years old. But despite that, I still don't feel like I'm a part of the fan base, if that makes sense. Sure, I attend G-Fest every year, and you might even see me in some of the comments on r/Godzilla every now and then, but I'm just not as active as other people. As somewhat of an outsider looking in, the fandom seems to be pretty chill for the most part, so today I wanted to determine whether or not the Godzilla fandom is actually toxic. I wanted to figure out where this sentiment comes from, that these are toxic fans, and figure out whether or not they're valid. So what is a toxic fan base? Well, to determine this, I created a pyramid of sorts. It's kind of like the food pyramid, if you're American and you remember that from back in the day. The way it works is there are 3 main tiers that determine whether or not a fan base is or isn't toxic. If a fan base makes it all the way to the top tier, then they are a toxic fan base. But the bottom tier is pretty basic and can be found anywhere. You see, the way it works is the more intense and the more abhorrent the behavior is, the higher it goes up on the pyramid. So the first tier is going to be very basic behavior, while the top tier is going to be very awful behavior. I think this also works too because it showcases how at the very top it's a very small minority of fans. They're a vocal minority, if you will. And so as a result, it shows that the majority of fans are just normal people. They're at the bottom. They exhibit basic traits. Getting into it, the first tier is what I call the mild negativity tier. This is where members of this fan base give basic criticism towards a movie or TV show, or even the community as a whole. We can also see some super mild gatekeeping here as well. Some fans may experience exclusivity about who can be considered a true fan, but they don't engage in aggressive behavior to enforce these beliefs. There's some harmless trolling, but it's not like targeted. It's very lighthearted. Let's apply this now to the Godzilla fandom. I think it's clear that the fan base is capable of giving basic criticism to the films that make up the franchise. I mean, just look at how they treated Roland Emmerich's 1998 Godzilla film. Is there mild gatekeeping? Yes. Looking at the comments in my Doktor Skipper video, you can see people actively gatekeeping. They aren't enforcing these beliefs, but they are a little aggressive. Is there trolling? Well, absolutely. Again, look at the comment section on Doktor Skipper's Call of Duty video that he posted right after the Godzilla video. It's him getting flamed by kaiju fans despite the video not being about Godzilla. Moving on, the second tier is what I call the polarization tier. Members enforce strict criteria as to who can be considered a true fan, actively excluding and deriding those who don't meet their standards. Some fans engage in targeted harassment towards individuals who express differing opinions or criticize the content. This harassment can extend to actors, creators, or even fans. The fan base is also extremely divided into factions, with members engaging in heated debates, personal attacks, and even character assassination against those with opposing viewpoints. So you can see now we've kind of upped the intensity. We're going beyond just basic critiques of the franchise and now moving in towards personal attacks. And unfortunately, it would appear that the Godzilla fandom is almost nearing the second tier. While I haven't necessarily seen any targeted harassment towards actors or filmmakers, but if you have seen that, or if you are aware of something like that, then please let me know down below in the comments. I did a ton of research, but as always, there's a possibility that I could have missed something. There is a very clear division among Godzilla fans. I already mentioned the YouTube comment that referenced the different sects of fans, like MonsterVerse fans, Toho fans, and the 1998 fans. Of course, these factions can and will intersect with one another. It isn't like, say, Star Wars, for example, where there's the pro-Kathleen Kennedy Lucasfilm fans, and then the anti-Kathleen Kennedy, like the nerd-rotted critical drinker aspect of that fan base. That being said, though, there are a fair amount of Godzilla fans that are only invested in the MonsterVerse and don't care for any of the Toho films, or vice versa. They only care about the Toho films and can't stand the MonsterVerse. That's okay. As long as these fans are respectful towards one another, I don't really see that as being a problem or being toxic. Again, there's a fair amount of gatekeeping in the Godzilla fandom, but it's a healthy amount of gatekeeping. It serves to keep the disingenuous people that are only looking to stir up trouble out of the community. Now, this is just me talking, kind of going off script here for a second. I wholeheartedly believe that gatekeeping is a good thing as long as it's in moderation. Ironically enough, I swear I didn't even plan this. I'm wearing a Ghost t-shirt right now, and if you know anything about the band Ghost, you know that recently a bunch of new fans have sort of entered the fandom, and that's because their song Mary on a Cross recently went viral on TikTok. I don't even think it was recent, it might have been a year ago, but regardless, there are now a ton of new fans that are younger, that are from TikTok, that aren't exactly aware of the band and how they actually work. The band itself loves privacy. There's a reason that all the members are anonymous, besides it just being an aesthetic. It's because they don't want people harassing them. They don't want to have their personal lives ruined. With these new fans, we now see these people unfortunately being harassed. There's also a lot of these people that don't fully understand what the band actually stands for. They don't listen to the old albums. They don't know about the lore behind the band. It just kind of dilutes the band and their music as a result. I think if the Ghost fan base actually did more gatekeeping, it would have benefited not only the band, but the fandom as a whole, because now the fandom is just made up of people that ship other band members, and it's really gross because they're real people, and it's just like, I don't know, I want to hear about the music. I don't want to hear about your weird fantasies about real people. Like, it's just weird. I don't like it. So to get back on track, I think that it is safe to say that the Godzilla fan base is almost at this polarization point, but thankfully we're not fully there yet. Now, the third and final tier is what I call the toxic tier. This is where members engage in relentless and vicious attacks, including doxing, threats of violence, and hate speech towards individuals within and outside the fan base. The fan base adopts a cancel culture type mentality. This isn't cancel culture as you know it, politically on Twitter. This is different. It seeks to destroy the careers and reputations of individuals that they perceive as threats or adversaries to the actual fan base. Now, if I mention this specific fan base, I'm probably going to get kidnapped and you won't ever see another video posted to this channel. So if I stop posting, you'll know what happened to me. But a good example would be the Swifties. It is safe to say that if you mess with the Swifties, you will be murdered. Like, you will be killed. There's no way around it. You will die. Wait, are you tired of feeling like your online privacy is as secure as a post-it note on a busy street? Picture this. Browsing the internet without protection is like traveling with a see-through backpack. Everyone can see where you keep your wallet. But fear not, because today's video is sponsored by Private Internet Access, your virtual bodyguard in the digital world. So, what exactly is a VPN? Well, it's a lot like a cloak of invisibility for your internet connection. With Private Internet Access, your IP address is hidden and your online activity is encrypted through a secure tunnel, shielding you from prying eyes and data thieves. Think about those public Wi-Fi networks at airports or coffee shops. They're a goldmine for hackers lurking in the shadows, ready to snatch your personal data quicker than you can say password 123. But with Private Internet Access, your data stays safe and sound, even on sketchy networks. Their world-class server infrastructure encrypts your connection, making your information as bulletproof as Godzilla. And Here's the kicker. Have you ever missed out on binge watching your favorite shows because of regional restrictions? With private internet access, you can wave goodbye to geo-blocks and say hello to unlimited content from around the globe. From streaming services to online deals, private internet access lets you access it all with just a click of a button. And with support for all major platforms, you can protect every device in your household or workspace. And did I forget to mention their commitment to privacy? With over 30 million downloads, private internet access is the most transparent VPN provider out there. They never log your data, and their no logs policy has stood the test of time. Plus, signing up for private internet access is risk-free with their 30-day money-back guarantee and 24/7 customer support at your fingertips. Speaking from personal experience, this is the best VPN that I've ever used. So why wait? Protect your digital life today with private internet access. You can use my referral code www.piavpn.com/firewood to get 83% off private internet access with 4 months free. You heard that right. 4 months free. Remember, when it comes to your privacy, don't leave it to chance. Choose private internet access. Continuing on with the pyramid example, the fan base becomes an echo chamber where extreme beliefs and ideologies are reinforced and radicalized. This leads to even more polarization and escalation of toxic behavior. Again, we're coming back to it. Star Wars, that is, I consider to be a tier 3 fan base, because holy shit. You get subreddits like Saltier Than Crate, where it is that nerdrotic side of, we hate Star Wars, even though we're Star Wars fans. And then you get the Kathleen Kennedy side, where it's like, oh, we know that we're actively ruining Star Wars, but, at least we're owning the chuds. In the end, both sides look stupid, and both sides ultimately make up the fan base. As a result, the fan base just looks stupid. Thankfully, I really can't use the Godzilla fandom as an example here, because I don't consider it to be this severe. At least at this specific point in time, it is sort of a tier 1 nearing 2 fandom. So if that fandom doesn't apply here, which ones do? Well, I already mentioned the Swifties and Star Wars being tier 3 fandoms. So I wanted to come up with more examples, but I wanted to make sure that it wasn't just my voice being heard here. So I decided to ask you guys. On our Instagram account, it's at Firewood Media TV, I put out a poll asking people, what is the most toxic fan base? And just a quick little plug here, if you want to be featured in future videos, then feel free to go and follow that Instagram account, because I'm hoping to do more polls just like this. The majority of people said Star Wars, which could be an entirely separate video essay in and of itself. I did get some other responses though that I wasn't entirely aware of, like RuPaul's Drag Race and even car culture as a whole, which our friends from across the pond, Woodstock Roadshow, described as being a dick-swinging contest. Other people even suggested the notorious Steven Universe fandom, of course the Swifties, and K-pop stans as a whole. From my understanding, these are all valid based on what we've seen on social media with how these communities act, and it fits into that tier 3 toxic area. So circling back to the main point of this video, is the Godzilla fandom toxic? No. I feel like anytime fans of a franchise or a musical artist or even a sports team get upset, they're labeled as toxic, when most of the time that toxicity is just passion. Speaking as a sports fan, as you may be well aware, I wear a Bengals hat in every single one of my videos, and at first that was just by circumstance, but now it's just kind of like a trademark. I see a lot of discourse talking about how Steelers fans or Browns fans or Ravens fans or Chiefs fans are all toxic fans, and I have to disagree. I even see people calling Bengals fans toxic, but again, I have to disagree. A lot of this just boils down to that tier 1 level of toxicity that I already mentioned. There's a fine line between being passionate and being toxic. I think most of the time when people see this passion, they view it as toxic. And that's kind of disheartening to hear, especially as a fan of, we'll go even beyond sports here. We could talk about, Warhammer, for example. I'm a big Warhammer fan. And so seeing a lot of the discourse now and people calling them toxic, maybe that's just passion. Maybe that's just wanting to keep the franchise as it is and putting out fantastic material, as opposed to diluting it into something that it's not. You see, fans pour their hearts into these stories and characters. They want to see them done justice. They're the ones that keep these franchises alive and kicking, so when they criticize, it's not because they hate everything they see, it's because they care a lot. They want the franchise to be better than it can be. I think in this video I laid out what is and what isn't a toxic fan base. A lot of communities, they toe the line between being passionate and toxic, but even then it's only a vocal minority that act a certain way and give certain fan bases a bad name. That even goes towards the Swifties and even K-pop and Steven Universe and Star Wars. There are normal people that like this stuff. I'll even extend that olive branch out to Kanye West, right? In Anthony Fantano's newest video, he talks about how Kanye fans, they're evil people and, they're bigots. But I think that in the grand scheme of things, that's a very small but vocal minority of fans. Should that behavior be called out? Absolutely. But I don't think it represents the vast majority of them. Again, we'll go back to Ghost, for example, just because I'm wearing the t-shirt now. I've seen them live twice. Both times in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and both times the audience was fantastic. And this was right when Mariana Cross became viral. So yes, we did get a mix of some of the TikTok fans that were brand new and fairly young, but at the same time, they were still well behaved. Now, I can't speak for other fandoms because I know that there's this whole issue right now with live concerts where people are getting more rowdy and it's getting to be a problem with some of the behavior that's being exhibited during concerts. But I think if you just go outside and touch grass, you'll see that most of these people are like basement dwellers. The normal people are the majority of the fan base, and they are just normal people. They go to work or they go to school and they find enjoyment in something as simple as Godzilla. As long as they're not hurting anybody, I don't see a problem with them voicing concerns about certain parts of the fan base or even the franchise. These vocal minority of toxic fans aren't real fans. Let's be honest here. The real fans aren't out to ruin anything. If anything, they're speaking up because they feel like something's not right with the franchise and they want it to be better. I think that's important for keeping these stories alive and making sure that they stay true to what made them great in the first place. So, with all of that out of the way, I'm Cole McCormick. You're watching Firewood Media. Consider becoming a member to support the channel. For just $1.99 a month, you will receive a member shout out, as well as your name featured as an executive producer in all of our film projects. There's also going to be member-only videos, as well as exclusive behind-the-scenes content that you won't find anywhere else. Plus, you can get some exclusive production updates and photos straight from the heart of Firewood Media. You don't have to if you don't want to, it's just an extra perk, but if you want to support the channel, while also getting some unique content, it'd be really appreciated. Either way, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.